In 1955, school looked very different from what students experience today. There were no smartphones, no laptops, no vending machines filled with energy drinks and snacks. For millions of American children, the school cafeteria was one of the most important places in the entire building. Many students came from working-class families. Some came from households where money was tight and food was limited. For these children, school lunch was more than just a break in the day. It was often the most complete meal they would eat. The lunches served in American schools during the 1950s were simple, affordable, and designed to keep growing children fed throughout the school day. Some of the foods may seem familiar, others may surprise you. Today, we're stepping back in time to explore what school lunches really looked like in 1955 America. Let's begin. Number 1. Meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Few foods were more common in American school cafeterias during the 1950s than meatloaf and mashed potatoes. It was filling, affordable, and easy to prepare in large quantities. School kitchens often had to feed hundreds of students every day. Meals needed to be practical. Meatloaf was the perfect solution. Ground beef could be stretched with breadcrumbs, onions, and seasonings, allowing schools to serve more students while keeping costs under control. The meatloaf was usually sliced into thick portions and placed onto metal cafeteria trays. Beside it sat a scoop of mashed potatoes, often covered in brown gravy. For many children, this meal felt warm and comforting, especially during the colder months of the school year. The smell of meatloaf drifting through the cafeteria could be noticed long before lunchtime arrived. Students lined up with trays in hand, waiting for their turn. Some loved the meal, others complained about it, but almost everyone remembers it. Teachers and parents appreciated meals like this because they provided protein, carbohydrates, and enough calories to help children stay focused in class. In an era before fast food became a daily habit, meals like meatloaf and mashed potatoes represented traditional American home cooking. For many students, school lunch tasted very similar to dinner at home. Looking back today, this simple combination remains one of the most iconic cafeteria meals of the 1950s. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't exciting, but it filled hungry stomachs and became a lasting memory for an entire generation of American children. Number 2. Milk bottles. If there was one item that appeared on almost every school lunch tray in 1955, it was milk. Long before soda machines and sports drinks became common, milk was considered one of the healthiest beverages a child could drink. Schools strongly encouraged students to drink it every day. Many cafeterias served milk in small glass bottles rather than cartons. These bottles were often delivered fresh each morning by local dairies. Rows of cold milk bottles sat inside large refrigerated coolers, waiting for lunchtime. Students could usually choose between regular milk and chocolate milk. And as you can imagine, chocolate milk was often the favorite. For many children, getting chocolate milk felt like a small reward during the school day. Teachers and nutrition experts of the time believed milk was essential for growing bodies. It was rich in calcium, protein, and vitamins. Parents trusted it. Schools promoted it. And children drank millions of bottles every year. In some communities, students even participated in programs that encouraged them to drink more milk at home. Colorful posters showing healthy children with glasses of milk could be found hanging in cafeterias across America. The sound of glass bottles clinking together became a familiar part of lunchtime. Students opened their bottles while chatting with friends and preparing to eat. Unlike today, where many students carry reusable water bottles or buy soft drinks outside school, milk was often the undisputed king of the cafeteria. For some children from low-income households, the milk served at school provided important nutrition that might not always be available at home. Looking back, those small glass bottles became one of the most recognizable symbols of school life during the 1950s. Simple, cold, and unforgettable. For millions of American students, Lunch simply didn't feel complete without a bottle of milk sitting beside the tray. Number 3. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Few foods are more closely connected to American childhood than the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. By 1955, it had already become one of the most popular lunch items found in schools across the country. It was simple, affordable, and incredibly easy to prepare. Parents loved it because the ingredients were inexpensive and could last for a long time in the kitchen. Schools appreciated it because it was filling and familiar. And children enjoyed the sweet and salty combination. A typical sandwich consisted of 2 slices of soft white bread. One side was covered with peanut butter, the other with fruit, jelly or jam. The slices were pressed together and often wrapped in wax paper before being packed into a lunchbox or served in a cafeteria. For many students, this sandwich was a daily part of life. Some children brought one from home. Others received similar sandwiches from the school cafeteria. It was one of the most dependable lunch options available. The sandwich also reflected the values of the era: practicality, affordability, and convenience. Families were looking for foods that could feed children without putting too much strain on the household budget. Peanut butter provided protein. The bread supplied energy. And the jelly added a touch of sweetness that children loved. At lunchtime, cafeterias were filled with the sounds of students opening lunch boxes, talking with friends, and trading parts of their meals. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich was often one of the most valuable items for trading. Some students swapped them for cookies. Others traded for fruit or snacks. The sandwich became more than just food. It became part of school culture. Even decades later, many Americans can still remember the taste of those simple sandwiches. For some, it brings back memories of crowded cafeterias and childhood friendships. For others, it reminds them of a simpler time when lunch didn't need to be complicated to be satisfying. Today, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich remains one of the most iconic foods in American history. And in 1955, it was a familiar sight on lunch trays in schools from coast to coast. Number 4. Chocolate pudding. For many students in 1955, the best part of lunch wasn't the main meal. It was dessert. And one of the most common desserts served in American school cafeterias was chocolate pudding. Simple, sweet, and inexpensive chocolate pudding was a favorite among children of all ages. School cafeterias often prepared large batches at a time. Huge metal bowls filled with creamy chocolate pudding could be found in kitchen areas before lunch service began. Workers carefully portioned the pudding into small cups or bowls, ready to be placed onto lunch trays. For many students, seeing chocolate pudding on the menu instantly made the day a little better. The texture was smooth, the flavor was rich, and unlike many other cafeteria foods, few children complained about it. In an era before packaged desserts became common, pudding felt like a special treat. It wasn't considered luxury food, but it added a little excitement to an ordinary school day. Children often saved it for last. After finishing their sandwiches, vegetables, and milk, they would slowly enjoy every spoonful of pudding. Some students even raced through the rest of their meal just to get to dessert faster. Teachers occasionally had to remind children to finish their lunch before eating the sweet treat waiting at the end of the tray. Chocolate pudding also reflected the practical nature of school cafeterias. It was affordable to make, easy to store, and popular with nearly everyone. That combination made it an ideal choice for feeding large numbers of students. Many Americans who attended school during the 1950s still remember those small cups of pudding. The memory often brings back images of crowded cafeterias, metal trays, and conversations with friends during lunch breaks. While school meals have changed dramatically over the decades, chocolate pudding remains one of the desserts most closely associated with childhood in mid-century America. For countless students in 1955, lunch wasn't truly complete until the last spoonful of chocolate pudding was gone. Number 5. Vegetable Day. Not every lunch in 1955 was a student's favorite. In fact, some cafeteria menu items were famous for being unpopular. One of the biggest examples was Vegetable Day. Many schools across America dedicated certain days to serving larger portions of vegetables alongside the main meal. Nutrition was becoming an increasingly important topic during the 1950s. Educators, doctors, and parents all believed that healthy eating played a major role in helping children grow strong and succeed in school. As a result, cafeterias worked hard to include vegetables whenever possible. Students often found carrots, peas, green beans, cabbage, or corn sitting beside their main dish. While some children enjoyed these foods, many others were far less enthusiastic. It wasn't uncommon to see students carefully pushing vegetables around their trays, hoping teachers wouldn't notice. Others tried to trade them with friends. Some children became experts at hiding peas under mashed potatoes or slipping unwanted vegetables into napkins. Despite these efforts, cafeteria workers remained determined. They believed vegetables were essential for good health. Posters promoting healthy eating often decorated cafeteria walls. Children were encouraged to finish everything on their trays before leaving the lunchroom. For many students, Vegetable Day became a memorable part of school life. Not because it was exciting, but because it represented a small battle between children and healthy eating. Parents often supported the school's efforts. At home, many families followed similar rules about finishing vegetables before dessert. Looking back today, these lunches offer a fascinating glimpse into the values of the era. Schools weren't simply trying to feed students. They were trying to teach lifelong habits. Whether students liked it or not, vegetables were considered an important part of growing up in 1955 America. And every trip through the cafeteria line served as another reminder of that lesson. Number 6. The lunch ladies. When people remember school lunches in 1955, they often remember the food. But many also remember the people who served it. Ahora, the lunch ladies? Long before automated food systems and prepackaged meals became common, school cafeterias depended on hardworking women who prepared and served food every single day. Most students knew them by sight. Some even knew them by name. Every morning, long before the first school bell rang, cafeteria workers arrived to begin preparing meals. Large pots were placed on stoves. Vegetables were washed and chopped. Desserts were prepared. Milk bottles were stocked in coolers, and trays were organized for the hundreds of students who would soon arrive. The work was physically demanding. Many cafeterias operated with limited equipment compared to modern kitchens. Everything had to be prepared by hand. Yet, despite the challenges, these women managed to serve entire schools every day. For younger students, the lunch ladies could seem almost larger than life. Standing behind long serving counters, they carefully placed food onto trays while keeping the lunch line moving. Some were known for being kind and friendly. Others had a reputation for being strict. Students quickly learned which lunch ladies might give an extra scoop of mashed potatoes and which ones followed the rules exactly. In many communities, cafeteria workers became familiar faces. They often lived in the same neighborhoods as the families they served. Parents trusted them, teachers respected them, and students saw them almost every school day of the year. During difficult economic times, lunch ladies played an especially important role. Some understood that certain children relied heavily on school meals. They knew which students came from struggling households. And while rules had to be followed, many tried their best to ensure children received a warm meal each day. The cafeteria itself could be noisy and chaotic. Hundreds of students talking at once, trays clattering, milk bottles opening. Yet somehow, the lunch ladies kept everything running smoothly. Looking back today, many Americans remember these women with surprising affection. The meals may not have always been perfect, but the people serving them became an unforgettable part of the school experience. For countless children in 1955, lunch wasn't just about the food. It was also about the familiar faces waiting behind the serving counter each afternoon. Number 7. The cafeteria line. For many students in 1955, lunchtime began long before they actually sat down to eat. It started in the cafeteria line. Every day, as the lunch bell rang, hundreds of students left their classrooms and headed toward the cafeteria. The sound of footsteps quickly filled the hallways. Children carried their books, talked with friends, and hurried to find their place in line. The cafeteria line was one of the most social parts of the school day. Students discussed homework. They talked about baseball games. They shared stories from the weekend. And sometimes they simply wondered what was being served for lunch. In most schools, students moved through the line one tray at a time. Large serving counters stretched across the cafeteria. Behind them stood cafeteria workers ready to serve each meal. A student would slide a tray forward. A scoop of vegetables would be added, then the main dish, then dessert, and finally a bottle of milk. The process was designed to move quickly. Schools often had only a short amount of time to feed hundreds of children. Many cafeterias relied on organized lunch lines and standardized meals to keep everything running efficiently. Ingenious culinary concepts. For younger students, standing in line could feel like an event of its own. Some hoped for an extra large serving. Others looked ahead to see what dessert was waiting at the end of the counter. Friends often tried to stay together while moving through the line. Sometimes teachers supervised to make sure everyone behaved properly. Discipline was an important part of school life in the 1950s. Students were expected to wait patiently. Cutting in line was usually not tolerated. Good manners were encouraged everywhere, including the cafeteria. Once students reached the end of the line, they carried their trays carefully toward long cafeteria tables. Many schools used large shared tables where dozens of students sat together. Cafeterias were designed to serve large numbers of children efficiently during limited lunch periods. Ingenious culinary concepts. The lunch line also created a sense of equality. Whether a student's family was wealthy or struggling financially, many children received the same meal. The National School Lunch Program helped schools provide standardized meals to students throughout the country. Looking back, many Americans remember the cafeteria line almost as clearly as the food itself. The metal trays, the sound of voices, the smell of hot lunches, the excitement of seeing what was on the menu that day. For millions of students in 1955, the cafeteria line wasn't just a place to get food. It was where friendships were formed, conversations began, and memories were made every single school day. Number 8. Friday fish lunches. For many American students in 1955, Friday lunch often felt different from the rest of the week. That difference usually came from one item on the menu: fish. Across much of the United States, schools frequently served fish on Fridays. This tradition was especially common in communities with large Catholic populations. At the time, many Catholic families avoided eating meat on Fridays as part of a long-standing religious practice. As a result, school cafeterias adapted their menus to accommodate students and their families. For millions of children, Friday became known as Fish Day. The meals themselves were usually simple: breaded fish fillets, fish sticks, or baked fish served alongside vegetables and potatoes. The goal was not to create a gourmet meal. The goal was to provide an affordable and filling lunch that met the expectations of the community. Students often had mixed opinions about Fish Day. Some looked forward to it. Others hoped for almost anything else. The smell of fish being prepared in large cafeteria kitchens was often noticeable throughout the building long before lunchtime arrived. As students entered the cafeteria, many already knew what was waiting on their trays. Friends debated whether Fish Day was good or bad. Some traded food items with classmates whenever possible. Others happily enjoyed every bite. Like many school lunches of the era, fish meals reflected practicality. Schools needed foods that were affordable, easy to prepare in large quantities, and capable of feeding hundreds of students in a short period of time. Fish fit those requirements surprisingly well. It could be purchased in bulk. It stored reasonably well, and it provided valuable protein for growing children. For cafeteria workers, consistency was important. Menus often followed predictable weekly patterns, helping kitchens stay organized and control costs. That meant students could often guess what day of the week it was simply by looking at the lunch menu. Friday fish lunches became one of those traditions. Today, many Americans who attended school decades ago still remember Fish Day with surprising clarity. Not necessarily because the food was extraordinary, but because it was a routine that repeated itself week after week, year after year. Looking back, Friday fish lunches offer a small but fascinating glimpse into everyday life in 1955 America. They remind us that school lunches were shaped not only by nutrition and cost, but also by the cultural and religious traditions of the communities they served. For countless students, Fish Day became one of the most recognizable parts of the school week. Whether they loved it or hated it, they certainly remembered it. Number 9. The metal lunch trays. When people think about school lunches in 1955, they often remember the food. But many also remember what the food was served on: the metal lunch tray. Before disposable containers became common, cafeterias across America relied on sturdy metal trays to serve meals to students every day. These trays were simple, practical, and built to last. Most featured several compartments. Each section had a specific purpose. One area held the main dish, another held vegetables. A smaller compartment might contain dessert, and somewhere on the tray sat a bottle of milk or a place reserved for it. The design helped cafeteria workers serve hundreds of students quickly and efficiently. As children moved through the lunch line, each compartment was filled one item at a time. By the time they reached the end of the counter, an entire meal had been assembled in front of them. For many students, carrying a full tray required concentration. A crowded cafeteria could be a challenging place to navigate. Children carefully balanced their lunches while searching for friends and empty seats. Occasionally, accidents happened. A tray might slip. A bottle of milk could tip over. Mashed potatoes sometimes landed somewhere they weren't supposed to. Whenever this happened, the sound often echoed throughout the cafeteria, and almost immediately, dozens of students turned to look. Moments like these became part of school folklore. Years later, many Americans still remember the embarrassment of dropping a tray in front of an entire lunchroom. The trays themselves became part of the daily rhythm of school life. Students picked them up, carried them through the line, ate from them, and then returned them to designated collection areas when lunch was over. The clatter of metal trays stacking together created one of the most recognizable sounds of a 1950s cafeteria. Teachers heard it, cafeteria workers heard it, and the students heard it every single day. The trays also reflected the practical mindset of the era. Schools wanted equipment that was durable, affordable, and easy to clean. Metal trays met all of those requirements. Many remained in service for years before needing replacement. Looking back, these trays may seem like a small detail, but they played a role in millions of childhood memories. The food was important, the friendships were important, but the tray carried it all. And for students in 1955, it became one of the most familiar objects in the entire school day. Long after the lunches themselves were forgotten, many people could still remember the feel of a cold metal tray in their hands as they made their way through the cafeteria. Number 10. Why school lunch mattered so much. Looking back at the school lunches of 1955, it's easy to focus on the food. The meatloaf, the milk bottles, the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, the pudding, the fish lunches. But for millions of American children, school lunch was about much more than what appeared on the tray. For many students, lunchtime was the center of the school day. It was a chance to step away from lessons, relax with friends, and enjoy a brief moment of freedom before returning to class. The cafeteria was one of the few places where students from different backgrounds came together every day. Children from wealthy families sat beside children from working-class households. They shared tables. They shared conversations. And sometimes they shared parts of their lunches. For some students, the meal served at school was simply another part of their daily routine. But for others, it carried much greater importance. Many families in the 1950s still faced financial challenges. Budgets were tight. Large families were common, and every dollar had to be carefully managed. For some children, the lunch they received at school was among the most complete and nutritious meals they would eat all day. Parents appreciated knowing their children would receive a hot meal while they were at school. Teachers understood that well-fed students were more likely to concentrate in class, and cafeteria workers took pride in helping provide that support. The National School Lunch Program, which had expanded after World War II, continued to play an important role in communities across the country. What may have seemed like an ordinary lunch tray often represented something much bigger: security, stability, and opportunity. Lunchtime also created memories that lasted for decades. The sound of friends laughing across the table, the excitement of finding a favorite dessert on the menu, the nervous feeling of walking into a crowded cafeteria, the familiar faces of lunch ladies serving meals each day. These small moments became part of childhood. And for many Americans, those memories remain surprisingly vivid even today. Modern school lunches may look very different. Menus have changed. Technology has changed. Schools themselves have changed. But the purpose remains much the same: to feed students, to bring people together, and to provide a brief break in the middle of a busy day. The school lunches of 1955 may seem simple by today's standards, yet they tell an important story about everyday life in America. A story of families, communities, traditions, and children growing up in a rapidly changing world. And that is what made school lunch so important. Not just the food itself, but the memories, experiences, and connections that came with it. And that concludes our journey back to the school cafeterias of 1955 America. From meatloaf and mashed potatoes to glass milk bottles and crowded lunch lines, these meals helped shape the childhood memories of an entire generation. If you enjoyed this look into everyday life in the past, be sure to subscribe for more forgotten stories from American history. We explore the foods, traditions, jobs, schools, and daily lives that defined generations long before the modern world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next journey back in time.